Welcome back, everyone, to another Talk Sox interview. This time we're joined by Jason Gilman, the Red Sox 16th round pick in 2025 out of Kean. Jason went 14-1 in 15 games that year, striking out 150 batters over 112 and one-third innings, while being named Division III Pitcher of the Year. So, just to begin, how has spring training been for you, with it being your first spring training?
It's been good. I would say that it's definitely not what I expected. I came into this with obviously only D3 experience, so it's definitely been a lot to take in. But I definitely think that I hit the ground running. I was prepared, and I'm learning a lot about not just myself, but just the program, the organization, and what it really takes to be, a professional baseball player.
Would you say, like, the day-to-day at spring training, it's different than when you would prepare for the college season, or is it kind of similar to how you guys got ready?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely more attention to detail. We're working out with tons of strength coaches next to us, instructing us, helping us. Same thing on the pitching side. We're playing catch, we're throwing bullpens and doing all that, with a track man on us or video footage. And not to mention, coaches and other staff around. And then even just from a nutritionist side as well, we have much more access to things, vitamins or anything like that, hydration, and then just simply food and just protein shakes and all that stuff. So it's definitely nice to have the extra resources and the extra staff there who really care about you.
So, being from like up in the Northeast Mid Atlantic area, I'm assuming you enjoy the weather down there right now much better.
Absolutely, absolutely. I have a bunch of family and friends back in Jersey, and all of them are marveling at the amount of snow that they had just gotten, and down here, the sun's shining for you know all day. It feels like.
Yeah. And so, just to jump back for a minute, back to college, last year you got to pitch in the NCAA D3 World Series. What was that experience like?
Yeah, I mean it was great. I mean, the situation we were in, we're facing elimination and we're playing the number one seed John Hopkins, who was great all year. They had an esteemed program, great coaching and all that. And it was just a do or die game. I knew win or lose, it was going to be probably my last outing at Kane.
Mhm.
So it definitely was, leave it all out on the field. And I'm not sure if you saw the pitch count, but that's exactly what I did.
Yeah, I forget the pitch count, but I know you pitched a complete game and had 14 strikeouts. So it very
Hmm.
much followed that mindset of this is going to be my last game.
Yep.
So from there, obviously, you weren't sure if you were going to get drafted. You had gone into the post grad transfer portal. What was the draft process like for you?
Yeah, I would say it's probably a very unique story. I was actually on my way touring a college, University of Virginia, actually, and I get a call, and I wind up answering it, and it winds up being an agent, at the time, obviously advisor. Um, but I wound up taking it, learning about the draft process, learning kind of what it entails because I'm very new to the scene. I don't know a lot of people who have been drafted around me. Being at D3, it's not like teammates, get that look often. But yeah, I answer the call. I learn a little bit about it, and this is actually 12 days before the draft.
Oh, wow.
So within 12 days, I obviously wind up accepting and learning about the draft, and my agents, told me where I stood, and I knew that there was a chance that I didn't go in the draft. So I was actually committed to Ole Miss to play a fifth year, expecting, if that didn't happen, that I would at least continue to play baseball at a very high level. So I wind up, getting the call on draft day. I believe it was the second day or old day three, whatever it's called. But I wound up getting a call, and that moment was, one of the greatest I've experienced for sure.
So growing up, were you the only one to play baseball in your family, or has this been something that has gone through like with your father and his father?
Yeah. So, but my dad, he played when he was younger. He didn't play as long as he would have liked, I'm sure, but it's something that I was a kid and just, I started throwing a ball. Like apparently that was my first toy. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, I played since I was a kid. And my dad always told me like, we're not going to force it on you. If you want to play, soccer or something else, like, do what you want to do. So it was good to have that support.
So, when you were a kid playing baseball, were you always a pitcher, or was that something you switched to later on?
So I was all since I can remember I was a pitcher.
Okay.
But it wasn't just that. Obviously, being lefty limits me, so I was an outfielder or first baseman. But I would pitch as a kid, and then obviously hit a certain point and going into college. I went there and with the hopes that maybe I could two way. But I really kind of realized, like my coach had told me, he said, "Listen, like I think you have a lot more potential to be a pitcher, and I want you to focus on that." And I took his word, and it wound up working out pretty well for me.
Mhm. And so, obviously, last year, after getting drafted, you didn't get into any games with affiliate ball. How did things work out at the complex? Well, I'm sorry. I'm assuming after signing, you went down to the complex. If you did, how did things work out down there?
Yeah, they were good. It was a very much kind of reset for a lot of guys. They took it very structured, slowly easing everybody into, some guys maybe hadn't thrown in a little while, but kind of just, working our way into it. We all got on the same page. We all got on the same, kind of throwing program, just kind of a slower, steadier buildup. None of us were really sent out. I think there's, one pitcher who got in some games. But for the most part, everyone was pretty similar in the way that I was, with just kind of getting down there, getting our toe wet and learning what it's like to be, in a professional organization with professional expectations.
So, just to kind of simplify it a little for people listening, would you kind of say it's like a precursor to spring training in a sense?
Yeah, I would say that's a good way to describe it. I think it's helped me a lot to have that first couple of months under my belt, just so I've become familiar with everything. The staff, the people, the other players, and just my draft class as well. Like we've started to create some good bonds. But now with there being everyone in the entire organization here at once, it's definitely a good, like you said, kind of precursor to being able to excel in spring training. um it's definitely been helpful.
Yeah. And so, obviously, between the time at the complex after signing and then now at spring training, what was kind of the first thing the Red Sox had you work on as a pitcher?
Yeah, I mean, it's no surprise. If you look at me, I was one of the smaller guys, pitcher specifically in our draft. So right away, I knew obviously I needed to gain weight and throw harder. That's definitely the main emphasis for me. So it wasn't necessarily right into it with stuff on the mound, but it was like taking care of your body, eating the right way, working hard in the weight room and things like that. But yeah, as we got closer to spring training and led into spring training, we've been doing a lot of stuff for velocity. That's been my number one goal.
All right. So, to build off of that with the velocity, is there like any specific drills or like strengthening exercises they have you do in that sense, or is it a plan that they have already mapped out?
I would say it's nothing like not one drill specifically. It's not one exercise specifically. I would say it's just kind of the plan that I've kind of they've shaped out for me, between just my lifting, my nutrition, and then of course obviously throwing. There's different plyos and training in that regard, but nothing specific. Some velocity intent bullpens, things along that line, just trying to get the body to, learn how to throw hard and then trying to do it often.
All right. So, right now we're going to kind of shift it a little away from baseball for a minute. So, outside of baseball, what are some things that you enjoy doing?
Yeah, I mean, now there's more free time than I ever expected there would be, being in a professional organization. So I definitely have a ton of time on my hands. When I first got down here, I wasn't really doing too much, but now I've kind of started to utilize some of the extracurriculars that actually the Red Sox have offered. So I'm learning Spanish. There are a ton of guys in the organization that are, Spanish speaking. So it's cool to be able to start to interact with them a little bit more and get to know them. They also did some cooking lessons and stuff. So I've actually been getting into that a little bit. But other than that, just try and, pass the time. Everyone has their social media and, their shows and movies that they watch and things like that.
Okay. Uh, so one thing that I've always heard is that down in Florida, a lot of the guys like to play golf. Did you pick that up, or yeah?
I haven't gotten to it yet. I actually just started golfing like the littlest bit when I was back home right before coming down here. Not enough to get out on a course, but I think I'm slowly getting, the courage to get out there and try and pick it up as a hobby a little bit more. I will say the time that we have right now is it feels like we have a lot of free time, but there is a ton of demand on the body for sure. So it's also going to be a thing that if I do get into golfing, it's definitely going to be with a grain of salt, so to speak, just to obviously keep my body healthy and away
Yeah,
from any injury or anything like that.
I'd imagine right now, especially with spring training, it's when you get done with practice, it's recovering and getting ready for the next day.
Absolutely. I mean, I've never been a big napper, but in this, past couple of months, I've definitely taken my fair share.
And for the fans just listening and watching, how would you describe yourself as a pitcher?
Yeah, I mean, I like to say I'm unique. I think that the competitor in me is really what stands out. I'm a completely different person that you're seeing right now than when I'm on the mound. And I'm sure you'll hear a lot of guys, say that. But I mean, for me, it's really, just a different switch that I don't even have control of. It's once I get on the mound, like everything is locked in, tunnel vision on what I have to get done. From a stuff perspective, um, I've already mentioned I'm a lefty, but I am a fan of the strikeout. I know I don't throw the hardest out of everyone, but I definitely favor the strikeout a lot, and I really like to work that way. I've not been so much a weak contact, stay in the game a long time type of guy. I'm, sometimes working counts a little bit to my detriment, but I definitely, like to get my strikeouts.
So, obviously velocity has improved for you, but before that, I'd assume it would be more keeping batters off balance through a mix of your various pitches to acquire the strikeouts.
Yeah, yeah, I would say. I mean, at the D3 level, I was about probably 90 to 93 towards the end of the season, which was kind of an outlier at that level. I mean, guys do throw that hard, but I think, just a combination of the metrics on my fastball and velocity, my arm slot, and kind of where I am on the rubber, I'm on the first base side. So it kind of gives hitters a different look. And then just, throwing, like you said, my breaking stuff and keeping them off balance, that was definitely a key part. Um, but I think, a lot goes into that for sure.
All right. And this is just the final question, and I hope I'm not putting you on the spot with it, but growing up, who is your favorite baseball player to watch?
That's a tough one. As a young kid, I was really big fan of Brett Gardner and Curtis Granderson. Those were my two favorite. Being from Jersey, I know it's hard to say this now, being with the Red Sox organization, but I was actually a Yankee fan. Um, but yeah, I mean, I would say those two. That was definitely when I was still a hitter. But now as a pitcher, um, I definitely, I definitely have a few guys who I really liked. I like Blake Snell, another lefty, and then Max Fried, who just also
Yeah.
so happens to be a Yankee again. But those are two guys that I really, really liked growing up from the pitching side.
All right. Yeah. Honestly, those are all great picks, even if, a couple of them are Yankees, but again, can't hold that against you. You grew up a Yankees fan. But
Yeah, I mean, I never could have known this was going to be it, but I'm definitely not mad about it.
and thank you again for joining us for this interview, and best of luck in the
Absolutely.
2026 season.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you again. Have a nice night.
Thank you. You too.